a police officer if it was true that one of them came in earlier with an AR-15 with an automatic weapon, and he said yes.
Yeah, it's, you know, again, with the escalation of force, and you get to the point where imminent, the word always is imminent threat, where you actually are allowed to use deadly force. FBI agents, for instance, train on this standard. All law enforcement trains on this standard. And to see this now erased a little bit is very wrong, and it needs to be corrected.
Colleen Rowley, you mentioned fusion centers. Explain.
Well, you know, fusion centers are where law enforcement can combine forces. It has a good aspect, obviously, because you don't want these jurisdictional restraints sometimes to prevent sharing of information. So there's a good side to that. There's a bad side, potentially a bad side, which is that the separate jurisdictions exist for a reason. So, for instance, Ramsey County, seems like much of this is emanating from Sheriff Fletcher in Ramsey County. He seems to be the one that is into this preemptive show. I would think that St. Paul, the community policing model, is maybe not. But now when you combine forces, you know, you see that problem of that they all have the same equal law enforcement maybe authority in some of these cases. And Minnesota actually is quite a state that has always looked at separate jurisdictions. So the Fusion Center could have that problem.
Are there infiltrators? Is there surveillance that you know about going on in peaceful protests?
Well, here's what, you know, our group, we've been at peace vigils now for 5 going on 6 years. And, you know, we've never had this problem that in this last week. Our peace vigils in Burns, in suburbs, have been approached by police.
What do you mean approach?
We've had police officers come up to both of our really, we stand at a corner holding a sign for one place for over 3 years. And now we have police checking on intelligence and talking to us about violence. And of course, we think of this as very intimidating. I have numerous peace folks who have marched for 5 years, who are now actually worried about not only Monday, but the whole week. Many of our artistic, my group is having a picnic, for instance, on Harriet Island. Now, you can't imagine something more peaceful than a Peace Island picnic, and yet people are worried that could be disrupted by this show of force, and also by, you know, people are worried and may stay away. So this is very wrong. It's not only hurts civil liberties and the exercise of First Amendment rights, but it actually also hurts security. That's something to keep in mind. This does not help security, takes the police away from true threats, and then it also causes later problems for them trying to talk to people and get cooperation from the public.
Bruce Nestor, what is this injunction that has been sought?
This started out with a raid on Glass Bead Collective, a group here out of New York City that last week was arrested at 1:30 in the morning for walking near some railroad tracks in northeast Minneapolis.
Now explain, 2 of them had gone to get their friend who came in on the bus?
That's right. They had gone down to the Greyhound station in downtown Minneapolis, were taking the 17B city bus back to their house where they were staying, got off the bus, walked 2 blocks, and it borders a railroad track, as do lots of streets in Minneapolis. The police were quoted as saying, "We'll arrest anybody, or we'll detain and question anyone walking near railroad tracks at 1:30 in the morning." They then explained who they were. They provided identification. They had all of their equipment seized: diaries, computers, video cameras, still cameras, money, personal belongings, and clothes, and were held for 24 hours, that equipment. We actually got it back through public pressure, going to the media, holding a press conference. But this is a pattern, and it was a pattern that didn't get publicity in Minneapolis, particularly people with Communities United Against Police Brutality. And so part of the affidavits filed with the temporary injunction order that we are seeking included cop watchers who have had their equipment taken and smashed, memory cards erased, because they're just documenting police abuse during the course of ordinary arrests. So we saw an escalation of that once the RNC is in town. The harassment of eyewitness video is part of that, as well as the questioning of people just taking photographs. A former producer for a local TV station photographed a police SWAT team. He was stopped, questioned, his memory card was erased. Ordinary activity is being treated with this overwhelming level of force, and people are being detained. And so we tried to get the injunction to say, particularly in terms of people documenting police misconduct, you can't seize their video cameras and you can't erase images. You have to preserve that.
Colleen Rowley?
You know, back in 1986, the FBI overreacted and seized our main newspapers, Star Tribune's, and our main television station's cameras. And it was a very unique situation. But back in '86, William Kunstler came on the scene, filed a lawsuit, and unfortunately, the FBI lost the case, and it actually set a precedent that you cannot seize a news camera. You know, that's called, I can't remember the name of the case, but there is a strong precedent that this violates, of course, First Amendment rights as well as Fourth Amendment rights. So this should be, the lawyers really need to stay on this. People need to read those affidavits, and ultimately, let's hope we don't need a church committee when this is all over to sort out these kinds of abuses.
Well, I want to thank you both very much for being with us. Colleen Rowley is a former FBI agent, well known as Time's Person of the Year after September 11th. That's Time magazine. And Bruce Nestor with the Minnesota chapter of the National Lawyers Guild. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, Breaking with Convention, War, Peace, and the Presidency. When we come back from break, Jeremy Scahill speaks with Veterans for Peace about a fellow veteran, about John McCain. Stay with us.